motion then to go ahead with the, on the award then?
Yeah,
And that'd be the 20.
Notice award and also to approve the added $28,000.
Okay. Move in second to do the award and also add give them the additional 28,000 that was asked for. Any more discussion? No more discussion, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
I will also move that we approve the new budget as presented.
I'll second.
To approve the budget as accepted, as presented. Any more discussion? No more discussion, we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
So you'll note that the new budget is $1,068,517 or something of that nature. That does include the phase one stuff that's already been pretty well taken care of. The way FEMA's doing their new budget, we have to include the entire project, all inclusive, just so you're aware of that.
Okay, any more questions, or we get to?
Any questions for me?
Nope. You guys remember it's 3/4 federal funds and 1/4 local match. It can be either cash or income.
Yep, and I've broken that down on the budget sheet. You'll see, just so you can take a look at that real quick, it's this sheet right here. Environmental costs, the federal share, our total match, the match that's banked, the match that's remaining, the total match minus banked, and then the private match. And then in the end, Broadwater County is gonna have to come up with $179,000 of in-kind services.
And you think we've got that covered with the scope of work?
I think so, yes. I believe that's correct.
All right.
We've already done, Dana and his crew have already done quite a bit of work on that, and they've got a lot of work to do, so.
And Dana, you good with the timeline? It's aggressive.
No,
No,
he's not
I'm
good
not.
with it. Let's be honest about that.
Oh, yeah, I'm honest about it, I'm not. It's just hopefully we got some good weather and we can get things done before it starts freezing out, because like I was telling these guys, everybody knows what happens when you get about 3 days of real cold weather out there, so.
And getting that extension is gonna be.
Yeah, I think that's key. The problem we're gonna have is our contractor is just extremely booked for next year. So after about April 15th, yeah, it's gonna cost a lot more money. And so hopefully we can just kind of plow through this and get it done. Now there's, closeout on projects like this it's gonna be an effort. And so if we can get some extension and, give Dana and his crew some more time to kind of finish, at least get the contractor in and out of those things, and I think that would be good. So we'll try to work within that, within those boundaries as much as we can, and again, try to get some more time on, at least on the county's end, to get things completed.
And you'll let us know if it looks like we won't have the in-kind match.
Yes, we're gonna track that, and so, we'll try to give the commission at least a monthly update on where we're at with match and where we're at with things,
Okay,
if that works.
thank you. Yes, for me.
Okay, anything else? I guess we'll go ahead and get these signed.
Did we do a motion on the notice to proceed?
That was Mike's second motion.
Notice of award.
He
Notice
did
of
notice
award.
of award.
Is that the same as notice to proceed?
Yeah, so if, maybe we need to redo that. It is the notice
Yeah.
of award, notice to proceed, and contract. I
It'd be
think that was
wise
his,
to wrap
I
it
think that
all
was
up.
his intent, but
Yeah.
Do you want to restate that?
What was notice to award, notice to proceed, what was the other one?
and the contract.
Yeah, I'll make a, reword the motion to the notice of award, notice to proceed, and award of contract.
I'll second that
Okay,
motion.
it's moved and second. There's a motion as stated. Any more discussion? We'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Alright. And one last quick thing, we should be getting rebids Friday for the Wilson Bank Stabilization Project. Glad you're here, because we're gonna need to probably get some sort of a memorandum of understanding or an agreement with that landowner.
Okay.
Especially at 25%.
Have you been talking to Jackson Murdo or to retain for this?
Yeah, initially, that's what all these documents are.
Okay.
So, I can chat with them again, if
Yeah.
you prefer on that.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
is that.
So I was ready to go.
Because they reviewed all of these documents before we put them out to bid. and all
Sign
that.
it
Yeah,
there.
that was included in what they're supposed to do.
Okay, so you know
Awesome,
what's-
all right, I'll get hold of them and get that.
That's the owner. Okay, there's notice of award, then I'll sign it as authorized signature as the owner here, is that correct?
Yes,
And then below it, I'll sign it and my title.
and then the only other one you need on the, don't sign the contract yet, we don't need that. I need to make sure they have all their pieces in, and so I'll route that through you
Oh,
probably
okay, then,
next Monday or something,
Okay,
hopefully. But the notice of award and the notice to proceed are the two I need signed today.
Where's that floodplain one at?
That's the, yeah, that's the first one.
It says, this in here, Sean.
Okay, so floodplain permit is here, so yeah, that one needs to be signed too, that's the budget, and then. This page right here too. So that one will solidify
Okay,
the floodplain permit.
ready to sign right above my name right
Yep,
here.
right there.
Okay. That's the only signature needed on that one then, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll give that back to you.
Okay. Now we can put there. And then you've got the notice, okay, there's the notice of award, and then the notice to proceed is that one right there.
Okay. I'll sign it here and then down here then, right?
Just right here.
Just this one, okay.
Yep.
Guess that's all I need.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I should take care of that. Keep that one. We can just make sure. Oops.
Okay, yeah, I can scan them and email them to you. Okay,
These three.
you just need the signed pages, because you have the rest
I
of
just
it.
need to sign the
Okay,
pages.
I can do that.
Perfect.
Very good,
That way you keep the originals.
okay.
Okay.
Think we're all done?
Okay, very good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
thanks, Sean.
Okay, search and rescue, approve final building plans.
Yes.
As requested, stamp set. It's been reviewed. Let's see that. Everything that you guys had asked for, code's been reviewed. All the wind analysis, soil analysis, everything, it's applicable to these. It's all here. Number schedule, connector schedules.
And it's a PE stamp up there in the
Yes.
corner.
It's been reviewed twice by a structural engineer in Colorado and then stamped by Slim Miller out of Helena, an associate of mine.
Okay.
If you have any questions,
Any other questions?
I do have one, and it's on the bathroom. What I'm wondering, I understand that the trust board can only fund recreation. So I get that they can fund the bathroom for you guys. The bathroom is a shower, washer, and dryer, ADA compliant, so it answers all the questions, which is good. What I don't understand is why, since we're looking at a limited number of people, granted, search and rescue is a large group, but it really is a limited number of people when you look at public restrooms in the county. So we're talking about maybe 2 people needing shower facilities, laundry facilities. So it would make, in my opinion, more economic sense to have one bathroom with an interior lock out into the search and rescue meeting area and an exterior lock to the outside so that search and rescue could use the bathroom and showers when you need it. But also, since we have a need for weed and mosquito sprayers to be able to have a bathroom, it would be great for them just to be able to borrow it as they need it, come in the outside door. You've got the inside locked away, so you don't have non-search and rescue personnel going into your area. So it just seems to me that we'd be saving around about 15 grand, and I think that would be a good use of our money.
well, nobody from Weed and Mosquitoes has really contacted us.
And-
Originally, you had just requested a space for them, and that's what we did.
I don't think we did, because we didn't talk about these plans before they came to us. But what I'm wondering is I think you guys, neither party has contacted each other, but I'm not sure Weed and Mosquito really knew you were doing this until a couple of weeks ago. So, is that something we can look at, is saving
Well,
50
they would have their
grand?
own outside access, and so it's kinda
Right.
up to them to provide their own facility, cause then we get into the issue of who used it last, who's responsible for cleaning it, maintaining it. If we have them separate, I mean, that completely eliminates both of those issues.
The other one of the concerns we had too was with chemicals that may be residual in the bathroom that we don't know about, that they might be gonna come back, clean up tomorrow. And conversely with us, if we happen to have bloodborne pathogens in there, get back from a call, everybody bails, we don't clean it till the next day. Without the 2 groups knowing the different things that are going on in there, we don't, there's that possibility we'd get into something of theirs and they'd get into something of ours that we don't know about.
I would hope that bloodborne pathogens would be cleaned immediately.
Well,
For
yeah,
safety.
but still, it's just an option of, you get everybody back at 3 o'clock in the morning, it might be the next afternoon. You gotta realistically, everybody's back there tired, we're beat, it doesn't work that way. In real life, in a perfect world, yes.
Or you clean something, but you're so tired you miss it, it's,
Yeah, because realistically, it's probably gonna happen the next day, just because of the time, and like I say, we spend all times of the day and night out. We come back in, we park the cars, and then we address it the next day. So there is that, that was one of our concerns for their chemicals coming our way and our stuff coming their way. Yeah, hopefully we never have to deal with that in our lives again. I really don't like that, but it is a potential.
So actually with your plans, what we're concerned about right now is the search and rescue part.
Yep.
Which would take care of everything. And if they decide to do whatever on the other side, or somehow this would ever make a change, that'd come up at a later time. Main thing is that this building proceeds.
Yeah, and if that space will be stubbed out right now, if they don't want it, we will make it into a storage room, another bathroom, so we have double-sex bathrooms, it could be a kitchen, it could be an office, in which case it all becomes recreational, and it no longer is their part. So that would,
Any other comments or questions on this?
I do have one for Wynn. Early on, the discussion was that what was needed was a training facility, training room, and heat, because I understand one winter it was only getting up to 50, 51 degrees. Does this address that? And do you know if it doesn't, is there a plan for that, or is that no longer an issue?
Well, no, it's always gonna be an issue. I mean, this is the same thing I must say that I've said for years and years and years. if we're gonna, if we're looking at trying to make search and rescue what, a facility for search and rescue, then that's what we need to focus on, okay? We haven't done that in years. We keep trying to compile everything in the county into one building. And it eliminates, basically what's happened is that we've convoluted the mess. The bathroom's a huge issue for the search and rescue right now because they are using an outhouse. And in the winter, it freezes, and so you have cold plastic and frozen water. Which then, it's nice because everybody decides to come over and kick the damn thing over. It will be in a component of the training room. I think there's gonna be there'll have to be some modifications to the room itself. But that could be, I don't know how else to address it. I mean, right now, it's, I guess, I don't know how John feels about it. I would still like to see that lower ceiling in there, but that's obviously something that's in the same breath as, do you wanna try to install, and I guess Mike would be the person for that, to even answer that, some sort of system in there. You're still trying to add a new fixture to probably what, a 1950s, late 40s concrete building that's been there for decades on end. You still have floor drains that are full of gunk. But the bathroom component's a huge component to this. I have gone through, I finally got to go through the plans today. Probably should have been part of that conversation when it started. My issues with the setbacks on it were addressed. I think we're good there. Everything seems to be appropriate. The only concern I have is the workers' comp component. Who foots the bill for it? And if something happens, who's footing the bill for it? The other one was the insurance, and we did talk with John and Keith about it. If something's not right, needs to be fixed, who do you go back and fix it under the current plan? What was the other thing I brought up, Corey? Whether it needed a competitive contract? No, so it was under that, but.
Owner's representative or general
Yeah,
contractor?
General contractor, because when you're dealing with a general contractor, he's gotta warranty his work. You can't really hold volunteers responsible to do something that's outside of that. And so I didn't know who's gonna do that and what the legalities were there. The plan, it sounds like Keith's got a good plan. The plans look good. I think there's just some legality questions to it. But to address your question, Commissioner Over, it doesn't meet all the needs, but as a search and rescue building should, but one of the hugest components of that building right now is, and how it's been allowed to go on as long as it has, is no bathroom facility. I think people have looked at this building as a garage and a storage unit. That is an operational center for search and rescue and public safety, and it really should have never been built the way it was without a bathroom in it in the first place. So, that's just my opinion.
So Corey, what about the questions that Wynn raised?
So I'll just run through what I understand of the project, and if I'm wrong on anything, correct me. So, I understand that materials were looking around $23,000 cost, is that right? And the trust board intended to cover that with their $25,000 grant, is that right? Okay. And that's materials as it's drawn right there. Okay, so anything that would be a change would have to potentially change that, but right now that's what it is, okay. And then total cost, if you hired labor, would be about $45,000, is that right? Okay, so the idea is that we get basically volunteers who do other things, but are all, well, some of them do construction, and so you're confident that you've got volunteers that know what they're doing. So that,
Everything has to pass inspection anyways.
right.
So I kind of think that in and of itself addresses any type of warranty issues that, one might have.
Okay, so you'd still have to get a building permit, I'm assuming, from the city,
Mhm.
right? And then the sewer permit You've got a licensed plumber,
Licensed plumber does the sewer connection after the city puts the stub out.
okay?
And he takes it from there, he'll do the rest, pull the permit. Same with the electrical, the electrician will pull the permit for us and take about a day to do the work, and we have money set aside for that.
Okay, okay. So as I understand it, one of the issues is that you've got a recreation nexus because you're search and rescue for the grant, but if Weed Mosquito have a piece, they don't have that nexus for the grant, so they would have to pay for
This
their
one-
portion of the building that they're getting, is that correct?
We're going back to the trust board.
Okay. All right,
Should they choose.
And-
to.
and
They don't,
keep in
then it's
mind
part
that-
covered for it.
got it.
You know, the design that I've donated a lot of time and hours in, as well as getting these reviewed and stamped, you know, that essentially Weed and Mosquitoes is not paying us for that. That's something that I've done as a donation to my community, so, you know, there's that component to it as well. They've actually kind of make out like a bandit, so to speak, because all they have to do is pay for their fixtures and their finishes.
Okay.
Is the city digging that stuff? You guys digging over the sewer, and the city come in digging that hole for the?
We dig down to it, expose it, they come in, take about half an hour, throw in the tap, we run with it, and we have to backfill it. 2-foot lifts, I've got the gravel spec, all that stuff, so we'll have them pipe bedding and pipe cover, and then 2-foot lifts, you compact it, another 2-foot lift, compact it, and then the third lift will be pretty much setting us at grade, for the slab. So we're gonna do that all at once. We'll excavate the slab spot.
So as far as some legal issues, one is whether competitive bidding is needed, and it's not, that threshold is $80,000. And it's, the other thing that I'm working with Brian Hopkins and Mako on this, that is also if it's, that's contracted. So if you have anything that's volunteer, and that would reduce, that whatever that value is, or even county providing in-kind, that would reduce, in-kind, that would reduce that. So, but we're not close to 80,000. One of the issues though is, let me find it, 18.221, is having a performance and materials bond. So 18.221 is the performance labor materials bond. Whenever any board, council, commission, et cetera, on behalf of any state or any county municipality, so we're included in that, contracts with a person or corporation to do work for them, they shall require the person or corporation to make, execute, and deliver to the board a good and sufficient bond with a surety company licensed in the state, and condition that the person shall faithfully perform the contract, pay all laborers, et cetera, pay all persons, right? So that's a typical bond. Now, under, kind of down the road there, the county can waive that requirement if the cost is less than $50,000. What Mako told me though is that if we waive that bond requirement, then they will not cover us liability-wise. So if we waive that and thereby waive having a general contractor, and then we are sued in some way related to that building, then they will not defend us or cover our liability. So I'd say that's my number one concern. The other thing, so in other words, I'm telling you, I think what you should do is have a general contractor who then posts that bond. Now, if the general contractor is supervising volunteers who know what they're doing, I think it's probably not a particularly difficult thing, and you're not gonna get over the 80,000 threshold, but you're gonna have that coverage. The other thing I asked him is do they cover workers' comp for volunteers? Because our policy currently is that Mako does cover volunteers. For example, volunteers at the fair are covered under county workers' comp. Volunteer search and rescue are covered. Brian's not sure on construction, so he is gonna ask the underwriter and he'll get back to me. He couldn't give you an answer last week, and then I talked to him this morning, and he didn't know yet. So, if they do cover it, great. If they don't cover it, then someone, as Wynn was saying, someone from the county is gonna have to kick in that contribution to cover that. So the plans are stamped by the engineer, but because it's a public building, they also have to have an architect stamp. Last time we did that, we did it through WWC. Was it WWC? Okay, so I don't know what that cost would be. I'm guessing it's not gonna be very much since they're already done by the engineer. It might be pretty easy, but there's gonna be some cost most likely. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna donate that. Usually architects don't donate things.
Unless you have one in-house like WWC did before,
I can check into that.
yeah.
To see if this engineer has one in-house, and this engineer is a Montana licensed engineer?
Yes.
Okay. So that could obviously save that cost, because I'm sure that if he did it in-house, he's gonna do it to the standards that their architect's probably gonna
Yeah.
require.
Yeah.
So that's probably, in other words, other than the unknown on the workers' comp, a lot of these things are being taken care of, but I would very much discourage, you being the general or the owner's rep, because I'm worried about a commissioner doing that as a general contractor. I think it would be a conflict of interest and put you in a bad spot, potentially the county. Now, if we can get another general to do it, the idea we had discussed was Mike Myers doing it, and I think he declined the opportunity to do that. If he did it as a general, I think he would have to still do that bond, or the county would have to pay for that bond. So, do you guys have any thoughts on that, if there's a general who would,
Guess we just gotta ask around and see what we can get.
okay?
And the bond can't be very much. I mean,
Not for a project like this.
we could probably even have that in our budget to cover that,
We need to.
you know. That's minor as far as the grand scheme of things and getting this done.
So one more question I have for Wynn, and that's budget. If this does go over, I know you've put in a cushion, but if this does go over, do you have a contingency plan for the overage?
Well, I haven't looked at our search and rescue budget.
Comes down to the association does have,
The association's got some money.
we got some money we can donate.
It shouldn't be, I'm trying to think what we had in our building maintenance. I don't remember, I didn't grab it this morning, my mind was somewhere else, but, I don't think it'd be too far off, too difficult. Part of the fundraising efforts has been part of that as well, so I think it'd be okay, I think. Ed? You're the treasurer.
This is true, but I do not have the figures, so.
You don't have figures?
If anything did run over, I mean, it'd be minor stuff, interior finish stuff, stuff I'm sure we'd all get, you know,
You know, we got funding.
fundraised or donated or, you know, to some
We got money to
extent.
cover
Yeah.
that, so.
All right, good.
The biggest thing is the major pieces are definitely covered in what we've requested for budget, so anything that's, you know, tail over after that, if it did run over, would be negligible, so.
All right, and then one more question on the 80,000. If this is one building, but this is one project, so if these guys came back next year and said, we wanna do the same thing again, only to put in heat and improve the meeting area for training or whatever, that would be a separate project, even though it's the same building, correct? Talking about the $80,000.
So the way the law says is you can't take a project that you have contemplated, right, and cut it up into smaller pieces to avoid the contracting rule. But that doesn't mean that this is our project, we're doing this year, we do it, and then down the road, we think of additional things we wanna do, that doesn't automatically then add to the aggregate, unless that is the project and you're just cutting up in pieces in order to avoid the contracting. So yeah, you can come back next year, and you've got a new idea, add another building, add another room, whatever, that wouldn't be this project. Unless you, right there, right now, have a plan of this is phase one and phase two is next spring. If that's the case, then that all has to be considered together for the bidding requirements.
So as long as it's not stated as a plan, we could easily justify next year, again, just as an example, that no, this is a new project, even though it's the same building.
But
Yeah, it'd be a
as far as
different,
I know, this is the project. I don't know if
Yeah,
anyone's
yeah,
had any
yeah.
other,
it would,
Other than that, we do know from previous discussions that the meeting room and the heat is an issue. So all I'm saying is, I wanna make sure that we're all on the same page of understanding that if that were to come up, that that's a separate project.
it would definitely be a separate project, 'cause it'd be a different part of the building, number one, and number two, would be more considered like a remodel than an actual project, sort of like a tenant finish or something.
Okay,
So I mean, it's literally apples and oranges, you're talking about a new addition versus, you know, changing up an existing part of the building that's in a different location.
is that,
yeah,
that passes the
What-
legal muster?
well, what they're all saying is this is the project. I mean, a future new project is not included in what we're doing right now.
Okay, good. I think that's all my questions. I will say that I'm glad we're having this discussion. In 2008, I don't know if you guys were involved, but there was a remodel, and Wynn alluded to it, we spent $198,050 and didn't get you guys a bathroom or heat. And you were under city grade. So I'm glad that we've had these discussions. I know it's frustrating and it takes a while, but we need to make sure that the Ts are dotted and the Is are crossed. You know what I mean? And we need to ask these questions, these legal questions, so that we have it out on the table, that at least it was discussed. And a song that I'm always gonna sing is we're one county, we're one small county. Anywhere we can save or we can partner up, we save the citizens tax money, and that's really who we should be thinking of. So, you know, I understand that it's harder to work in partnership for a bathroom. Disappointed that, I think that's something that won't happen. I think it's too bad. I think this county, could benefit from that kind of a partnership. But again, that's gonna be a song that I'll probably sing solo, but I'm gonna continue to sing solo, because I think it's important, and I think it's right. So, I have no other questions or comments.
Comments, Mike? Or
No.
the was to approve the final building plans.
I'm making a motion to approve the final building plan for search and rescue addition.
Okay, can I?
I'll
Sorry.
second. Huh?
Go ahead.
I'll second that.
Well, I don't mind seconding it, but there's a lot of things we discussed that I wanna know, do we need a second motion, or is that part of this motion? And Corey, you were gonna interrupt, maybe
Well,
you can answer my
I think the
question.
two things, one, the big one that I still is it's still an unknown for Mako is, are they gonna cover workers' comp for volunteers? And if they say no, then we gotta figure out how to find some money to pay into workers' comp for those volunteers. So I think that, I would recommend let's get that answered. And then the second is how you wanna proceed with the general contractor issue, cause it's probably not gonna be much cost, but again, we don't wanna, at this point, if we prove that, there's no guarantee that Mako's providing liability insurance if someone gets hurt on the job. Well, that'd be Mako, that'd be workers' comp, but if it's some other issue, that could come up, as a part of construction lawsuit. So I would ask if you could give me a couple more days to keep bugging Mako on the workers' comp answer. And then if you guys have a general contractor.
And if he's bonded, then you don't have to worry about the insurance.
Yeah, if he's bonded, you don't have to worry about the insurance, the workers' comp still would have to be answered.
We really couldn't proceed with construction and actually getting a building permit until this is in place anyways.
Okay.
I believe that all has to be on the permit application. But getting it approved gives us that opportunity to move forward with these last couple items that are, you know, keeping us from getting this thing started.
Mike, would you amend your motion into those?
My motion was just to approve the plans, right?
Right, and you want to?
So we can approve the plans. The comp and the general contractor have not been approved yet.
Right,
But they need to have the plans approved so they can take them to the trust board, am I right?
okay.
And the process would actually be opposite that. You would go to the trust board first because they advise us. If they're good with the plans, then we would, with a letter from them, approve.
Did they already do
Since
that?
you did present an
Yeah, we have-
incomplete
We have a
package.
letter from them, but yeah.
Right, but that was a different package that actually said not for construction on the plans, which is one of the biggest things that they had to readdress. There was also not a scope of work. I have no problem approving the plans, but I do think that it's important that we follow process that's established and not be jumping ahead of our boards that are tasked with doing that.
Can I ask a question on that?
Mhm.
Are you saying the trust board has to approve it for the money contribution as well as just doing the building because they oversee? I mean, the trust board, we're talking about the money, but they don't oversee, they're not a board that is somehow an overseer or advisor of search and rescue. We're just talking about the financial.
Just the
contribution, is
financial
that right?
part.
Okay.
Except they have a checklist, and the checklist is there a scope of work? Are there plans? Are there permits? Is there a general contract? I mean, it's pretty substantial list.
I just didn't know if they had an additional role in search and rescue that I wasn't aware of.
Mm.
You got all that stuff together, the other didn't you?
So, I will second the
That's the
motion,
old one.
Mike, but I do want the caveat in the minutes that this is contrary to our policy, and this is a one-time breaking of that policy.
Okay.
The motion's already been seconded, I guess you can, if you want to vote on it, that's the, you can.
Actually, it wasn't, you seconded the first motion, but when you asked Mike to rescind and re-correct his motion,
And the motion still is to accept, am I correct, Mike? To accept the building plans.
Yes,
And then this workers' comp and all this other is a separate deal.
yes.
So we've got a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? We've been moved and second to approve the final building plans. So not, we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
So we gotta find this contractor.
Good.
and then I am gonna make a motion that or just put in the minutes that we are going to table the work comp question and the general contractor details until next week when we hear back from legal counsel. Oh, that's a motion, no,
I'll second.
it wasn't a motion, just a comment for the minutes.
Oh, okay.
So you guys want us to report back next week on what we find for a general?
Probably more Cory report, well, yeah, probably we need to hear from you guys. I would suggest going to
Actually,
Cory
I'd say
and
work
Lynn.
with Cory on that.
Well, I'll get the worker comp thing figured out, and then, as far as the general, just,
So you'll get the architect and we need just to work on a general one.
Yep. we'll be
Very good.
at that city.
And I don't know that you guys need to take off work to come back. I would think if you work through Win, since he's the department head, he can just send us an email or run down the stairs and let us know. That's good with him.
That works.
We're gaining.
Okay, well, that's some more work cut out for you again.
Oh, yeah.
But, thank you for all the work you've done. Search and Rescue's done a pile of work on this thing, and it's definitely been delayed for the last few years where it shouldn't
Well,
have been.
we can almost taste it now, so.
Okay,
Yeah, you've needed a couple of things. This is just one of them. I'm glad we're moving forward on it. It's a long time coming.
Good.
okay, well, thank you folks again.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Mike Myers, maintenance supervisor, ambulance building.
I'll sit up here. Okay, I'm finishing up a chest cold. Sorry.
There's something that's going around.
Finishing it up. I'm finishing it up. So, that's why I had to leave for a minute. Well, okay, so Mike and I talked a lot about it. He's kinda come to move out. Quite a few things on the ambulance building. Don't know, I guess I'm not too clear of how much we're gonna go and how far we'd wanna go, and us not owning the building. So I guess you guys kinda need to tell me what you guys, I came up with some prices, what Mike and I were talking about repairing the roof. I've patched the roof just to make it last. They did patch the roof, I think a year ago, and what happened is we had, all the snow, we had an ice dam up there. And then it just pulled up their stripping they had, which they probably should have done a little different, like Mike and I talked about, and overlapped it. I looked up what for using EPDM roof to repair the roof, and it was materials plus shipping was $1,600. But we're running kind of out of time with weather, because starting Sunday we're supposed to get into the teens, in single digits. So we'd have to kind of almost watch it and then wait until it warmed up enough to, which we will. We'll get it. We'll always get a warming trend, usually in November sometime. And then we were talking about, then Mike and I talked about, he got a price from Elkhorn for insulating. And it comes to $6,029 for the insulation, doing the exterior walls, it looked like, and core bonding and the exterior walls, and then doing blow-in. And then we had to do some framing in there, which I came to, framing the exterior walls was approximately $900 for materials, with having to replace the 2 exterior doors. And then Laura was talking about, what about the front windows? We could change the windows in 2 different sizes so that they're more thermal, because Mike and I noticed that the gaskets have shrunk, so you're probably losing some thermal on that, and plus, they're probably not argon filled or anything like that anymore, because I don't know how old they are. Changing the windows out front would be $2,500. I've also figured out a cost from the electric bills. I just went and figured out, we're spending per year on average about $3,500 a year in gas. That's just crazy. Because I can see the worst months is mostly November, December, and January. And that's because of the meetings, because somebody's in there turning up the heat, as we know, cranking it for the meetings in the evenings. And then I had to set it back so the setbacks, change it back so that it turns it off. But we're spending quite a bit of money. And I figured it's going to take, if for all the insulation and the framing of the materials, not including the windows, even if you can get a 25% savings, you're looking at probably a 7 to an 8 year payback, like doing the insulation. So it's a long payback, but if you're gonna take over the building, it's not a bad payback, 'cause it's an investment. So, but to put that kind of money into a building that we're not owning, I don't know what you guys wanna do with that. And then I also looked at the lighting costs. We're paying $2,600 a year in lighting costs. That's insane. It's because they're all T12s, and we did have a energy audit done, and they were stating that the lighting should be upgraded. And I agree, because we could probably cut that. Just doing the lighting upgrade, you could probably get a 2 to 3 year payback on that. Changing all those lights, and there's all T12s in there, those 4-footers. Especially in that meeting room. And heating, that's the other issue, is because of the heating, you almost want to, which it's not going to matter on the unit because the unit's old up there. But if we reduct some of this stuff, got rid of that overhead heat that's in where the ambulances are, and we'd tap off of the heating system and run new duct out and put thermostat controls so it only called for heat when it needs it, like in the meeting room, in the offices. And there, all the meeting room and the offices there, we just have to put in electronic actuators. So that wouldn't be a big deal. But to tap off and run another line over into the ambulance area and get rid of that overhead heat would be huge, plus with doing all that insulation. Because like Mike and I were looking at it, it's all cinder block walls on that outside. There's nothing, there's no insulation. It's just, you're just saying goodbye to everything. And then someday you might wanna address the, roll-up doors, because, you know, you have windows on roll-up doors, they're not thermal insulated, they're just letting everything go out too. I mean, so there's a lot of stuff to get done over there if you guys are taking over the building, but there's a lot of cost to it if you're not taking it over, so I don't know what you guys wanna do on it. And we still have to address the floor crack. And the only way you're gonna know about that is by removing the floor, figuring out where it's coming from, if it's water or what it is. But it can be addressed. If we have to put a sump in the floor, if it's a spring, it's a spring, you know. Cause it did heat last winter, but I think it has a lot more, I think it's water is what it is, I don't think it's anything to do with it. I think it's coming from the back where their downspouts come out that back, cause all the water from the roof come out the back. It's like that's why they did a burn back there. Keep the water from running over into the ambulances where they come out with there, cause it was turned into a big sheet of ice last winter. So.
So, Mike, the two outside doors, what would the cost of that be?
The two outside, which doors, the two exterior walk-through doors, the man doors?
Yeah, I think so.
The man doors weren't very much, they're $167 a piece at Lowe's.
Okay. And then do you have an estimate for the heating?
No,
Cost?
I did not do an estimate on the heating cost, cause I'd have to go up there and measure it. We're gonna probably be, with ductwork and actuators and everything, they're probably gonna be roughly between 1,500, I'd say.
Does that include the new unit too?
No, not the new unit, we wouldn't put a new unit on the roof.
Oh, okay, I thought you
We'd use the
said that was.
existing unit until we had to,
Okay,
but we could use, cause the only time that the meeting room's gonna have, we wouldn't put any AC into, you know, they wouldn't need AC. They would
Right.
just need the heat in there, cause that's when they use it the most. They don't hardly use it in the summertime, is how I'm understanding it. Cause I mean, you look at the cost, and like in November, they're running like $900 a month in heating costs. Yeah. Yeah, 848 for November, 806 in January. Then it starts dropping, but then what's also what was odd to me is the electric was high, which was normal for winter, summer, because you have the AC going, but then the electrical skyrockets in those months too because of the lighting costs. The lights are left on so long. And that's what's skyrocketing you can almost see when the meetings are there. I mean, $292 in electric bill.
for 1 month?
Yeah, that's all that is lighting
Wow.
for November. That means that's when they're having all their Christmas stuff going on, and,
Wow.
yeah.
So how many years does that heating unit have, do you think, Mike?
Well, all the parts are aftermarket parts now I get for it, because it's out of date.
Okay.
So it could last a year, it could last 10, but I mean, everything can be replaced on those HVAC systems except for the coils. That's the problem, is if you end up losing coils, which it wasn't our building, and I did inform them when we had the hailstorm, I informed when Richard was there. And I said, you guys need to look at getting that replaced, and you can do it through insurance, and he never did. now it's beyond that point. So that's the only problem. The heating system is the heating system. You can put new burners in, you can put new, everything for that. The only thing you might end up losing would be your AC unit. And if it came down to it, I guess you'd lose your AC unit and you put in a window box up in the front for the offices for them, and everybody else just wears tank tops and shorts in the meeting rooms.
I've been in the meeting room in the summer and it's stifling,
Yeah.
but it's not, we're
Yeah.
tough. How is it for offices or in the summer? Are you guys okay without AC?
No.
Not with her office.
Not in my office. You should have been in my office a couple weeks ago and the sun was shining right in that window. It's single pane. It's old window. Shines right in there.
So you're saying you'd need AC?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have to put something in for them.
Except we don't have a window for our box unit right now.
No, you guys have to, that's what I was saying about replacing your windows. We have to replace them. And then Mike and I talked about that too, framing out the windows. Because sooner or later, whoever takes over the building's gonna have to put new siding and clean that thing up.
Okay. So if we got new units, or a new unit, would it have AC, or are we talking just strictly heat?
No, it'd have AC, because
Okay.
you put a new rooftop on. New rooftop, you're probably looking for a small rooftop like that. Probably somewhere in the range of about 10 to 15,000.
Would the size or cost of that change if you just ran, you would only channel the AC to the front, right?
Yeah,
So the cost of your machine wouldn't really go down, the cost of your operation would go down,
yeah,
because you're only going to that front room.
that's right.
But the machine's gonna cost you the same no matter what, because you have to have it
Yeah,
to heat in.
we just do heat only in the back, heat only thermostats in the back, so that they can't have AC in the back by the ambulances, they don't need it. It's a, more of a garage, and then up front, you do your AC thermostats. And you could probably get away with a 1-ton unit or a 2-ton unit instead of, like we have here, we have like 8 tons, 5-ton units. But, that's not something we'd have to replace until we have to replace it. But I'm just saying, it is going to be addressed someday, because you can't replace coils. That's what we found what happened on the roof here,
Right.
is they couldn't replace the coils because what has happened in the industry is they went to, they're phasing out all R-22. And about probably, actually 3 years from now, we can't even get replacement R-22 units at all, coils or anything. You have to go to the new stuff, all 410.
Okay, and that's your 10 to 15 grand?
Yeah.
So there's no question there's need here. But again, it goes back to the same thing with search and rescue. We have to ask the tough questions. We have to know what road we're on. We need to know what it looks like. We need to have questions that have answers. So, Mike Delger, I know this is your idea, and that's a good idea to be looking at all options. So, have you talked to the hospital or the hospital district board about long time or taking over ownership of the ambulance building?
I don't know how we would approach the ownership, because in order to change that back, it's kinda like selling the six-wheeler, you got a public auction it. Because it's district property, unless we can figure out some way to transfer it. And I don't know what, they gave us the okay to do whatever we wanna do to maintain and operate the building, but I wonder if you could sign a long-term lease maintenance deal to where you were guaranteed, possession and control.
That's what would be my concern, is because if you put a whole bunch of money into it, and then they say, okay, we're gonna build a whatever here, and then the county's out all this,
Yeah,
cash flow. It is a good idea to do the framing and insulation, and reduct don't get me wrong, if we're gonna stay in there for another 5, 10, 15 years, it's a very good idea for us to do this, only because it'll make it more better for the workers that are working in there, and you will have a cost savings to do the lighting and.
And there's extra space in there we could utilize too in the back.
Yep. Yeah, you got more storage. We like, you know, when I first got hired here, this place is crammed. I
Right.
mean, there is a need for a bigger building.
There's no question about that.
So, I mean, there's a need for it. It just matters how you guys wanna approach it. And
Well, and the other thing that we don't have in there too is we got a $30,000 bill sitting in that back room. That's asbestos.
oh, yes, we
That's
do.
what it's gonna
Yeah.
cost us.
That's the hardest one.
And then is there any discussion about cleaning up the black mold as well, if you're gonna do the asbestos?
Yeah,
Is that a part of that, what you were discussing?
Yeah, I've looked into that, and what it is, before the insulation would go in, we'd have to go in there and remove all the old insulation, wash all the areas that are infected, and then spray it with a killer. And it's not hard to do, it's just, you gotta get in there and do it, and you gotta wear masks, respirators and everything else. I've done it before, I don't like doing it that much, cause it exposes you, so, but you just have to wear your respirators, wear your suits, you know, body, just so you don't get it in your, worst is in your lungs. And right now, I wouldn't want that.
Could we contract that part out and would it be fairly reasonable?
I don't know how around here, if there's anybody local that would do that. I mean, we could do it, I don't think it would be that big a deal, we just have to wear respirators.
Okay.
And you have to contract out the asbestos.
Yes, the asbestos has to be contracted, I wouldn't touch the asbestos.
Okay.
Because that puts a huge liability, I think, on the county for that, because of that asbestos. I'd rather have somebody who's licensed, I think you have to be licensed to remove
Yeah.
asbestos now.
Yeah.
Cause it's, you know, such a big thing. So,
So, I guess that brings me to another question then. So ownership, we can do whatever we want to maintain the building. One thing we should find out before we put any money into it is what is the hospital's long-term plan? A few years ago, they were looking at that lot for a viewable clinic. They also looked at that as a trade for the senior center. That's another area that we need.
As a what?
The senior center right now, we should actually take a tour of some of these buildings, but right now, the kitchen is too small. Every time I go there for lunch, Carol tells me about the issues she's having with the kitchen. We can't put a new hood in there, even though our old hood isn't up to code. We're grandfathered on that as long as we don't do anything in the kitchen, but it's too small to fit a new hood. There's also no storage for that. So that is something we looked at in the past too, was actually combining with an assisted living in that same lot and senior center into one. So there's been talk about that lot being used for different community needs or for different hospital needs. So we would want to drill down and at least have a discussion with all the key players on that before putting in very much money on something that might be slated to be torn down. So I guess that brings me to question number 2. What is the long-term plan from your perspective, Mike, for 1, extension, 2, that building?
Well, I think, Allison, you're pretty happy over there, aren't you, with your setup, or?
For the most part, I mean, obviously there's some little things with the building that could be improved, but as far as location and, the size of the meeting room and our office space, that part of it is fine. Like I said, if we have the ability to improve the building, that would certainly make us happier, but as far as, it's easy to get to from the school, it's right on Main Street, there's lots of parking, that part of it, I think it's great.
No, I'm perfectly happy with the extension being in here for right now, and the ambulance, as far as I'm concerned, that's a good building for me, especially if we get it insulated, it's closer to the hospital than what some of the stuff they've been wanting to do. They still want a new building, but